Hi guys, Darren here again from Tiny Houses Australia with another little grab from the Tiny House Jamboree. Here with Michelle Boyle of the Tiny House podcast and My Empty Nest.
My Tiny Empty Nest.
My
yes.
Tiny Empty Nest. There you go. I always get you guys confused with, Jake and Kiva.
Yeah.
Tiny Nest and My Empty.
They stole my name.
I know what's going on.
They stole my name.
How have you found the Jamboree so far?
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I was really, really happy that I got invited, and I was here to help out with the MC and some of the stage work and so forth. So I think it was a great event. I had a really good time.
Because you've been to all of the Jamborees.
Correct.
So far,
I was one of the first speakers on the first stage at the first Jamboree.
Yeah.
And so it's been really interesting watching them, as they have progressed year after year. So
yeah, it's amazing. And of course, for those that don't know, Michelle has been living tiny. In fact, you've got over the top. You've got 3 tiny houses,
correct,
a vintage caravan, travel trailer, and a teardrop as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Would you say that you're obsessed?
Actually, it's kind of funny. Like, people would say I'm obsessed with wheels. Yeah, like I'm obsessed with wheels.
Are you going to do a bus? Surely the bus is the next thing. No?
No, but the whole thing really did start with the caravan.
Yeah.
I found one that was made in 1964. It was covered with a tarp in 1967.
Wow.
Until I rescued it in 2012.
Wow.
So that was my first sort of foray into mobile, and I didn't even realize that glamping was a thing, or for me it was just like my next project. So in the process of renovating my glamper, her name is Betsy, and in the process of that I found that tiny houses and caravans have a lot of commonality, especially on Pinterest.
Yes.
Right? If you
Don't get Lisa started on Pinterest, she'll be there for days.
Exactly.
Sorry, honey.
So it was through Betsy that I discovered the tiny house movement, and I also built my skills and my confidence and my ability to do kind of basic building stuff. So first came, the caravan, and then I built my first tiny house. The goal for my first tiny house was to reduce my overall expenses. So my rent has gone from $1,800 a month, not including utilities, to $97 a month, including utilities.
Wow.
So I think I probably accomplished that.
Yeah. And so you're still living in that first tiny house, or?
Yes, I'm still living in, that's my permanent home now.
Okay.
And then, so that's the goal of the first tiny house, was to reduce my expenses. And then,
how big was what's sort of the rough dimensions of your first tiny house?
So the first one is 8.5 feet wide by 24 feet long by 13.3. I didn't push that 13.6. Okay. It's 13 feet 3 inches tall. So I built it in just under 15 months with just shy of $35,000. Most of my expenses, however, were covered by sponsors.
Yeah,
so,
you did a big sponsorship.
Yeah, so that's why I was invited to the first Jamboree, because at the time, and I think still probably to this day, my tiny houses are considered the NASCAR of the tiny houses. Like, I have more sponsors for my tiny houses than anybody else. So, but that was the only way I was going to be able to build. So.
Sure.
And now,
so what got you after that first one? When you had your home, you were minimising your expenses.
Right.
What made you decide to build another one?
Well, first of all, I think once you get done with your first one, you're like, oh, if I had to do it over again, I would do something different.
Yeah.
Like, so that was like the first thought. And the second thought was once I realized that the market for people that really want to try on tiny, or people that really want to stay in a tiny house but not necessarily live in one, the kitsch factor, the conversation factor, the unique factor of the the experience.
And it does help spread the word, even if
Right.
it's just people trying it out for a couple of days. They might, even if they don't want to go down the road themselves, at least they'll go, yeah, it makes sense. I understand why people
Right.
do want to go down that
Right.
road. Yeah.
So it's like this living embodiment of the movement. It's like
Sure.
it's its own advocate. So once I started doing the math for the hospitality business, the hospitality arm, the math was a no-brainer. I mean, I could build a tiny house and I could sell it,
Yeah.
and I can make a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
Or I could build a tiny house with someone else's money,
Yeah.
and then I can rent it out, and I can make a few $1,000s a month
Yeah.
per house.
Yeah.
So now the idea is I'm building a tiny house village. I say I'm going to stop at 4.
Right.
No one believes me when I say that.
Yeah.
I lease land, very, very inexpensive land. I'm doing very, very minimal excavation and so forth, but I do have power and water. So the goal of house number 2, 3, 4, and 5 is to increase my income,
Sure.
so that I can reduce my dependency or continue dependency on my corporate income. Because amongst all of this, and my podcasting and writing and traveling and all that, building and everything, I still have a corporate job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the corporate job, so you do have a day job outside of all the activities you're doing in
Yeah.
the tiny house world. What sort of
Yeah.
corporate job is it?
So I work in the semiconductor industry. So I work in high tech.
Yeah.
And I work about 3 or 4 degrees before your cell phone. So every single time your cell phone technology, for instance, changes, it creates obsolete inventory. It creates excess inventory and obsolete way up the supply chain. So what I do is I just pay attention. I monitor and disposition excess obsolete inventory in the semiconductor industry. So it's
And how many days a week are you doing that, or how many hours?
well,
a week?
technically, I'm a salaried position, and I actually did have to go to the office until really recently. So I used to literally commute and go to the office and do the whole cubicle thing and 40 hours a week until about 6 weeks ago. I was actually on vacation, and I got a phone call from my boss, and he said, "I hope you're totally okay with me giving away your desk, because we gave away your desk because we hired more people than we had desks." So totally out of the blue, I was actually transitioned to a full remote position, a full remote job. So now it's not the amount of hours I put in, it's just I have a job, I have a laptop, and I have a Wi-Fi signal. So I can literally work from anywhere I am, including here in Arlington, Texas. And I have a lot more flexibility. So, I mean, I still work, corporate job. 30, 40 hours a week, but sometimes it's at 2 in the morning, or sometimes it's at 9 at night. It fits in now more so to my schedule and what I'm doing.
Fantastic. And I think that's the whole sort of ethos of the tiny house movement, having that ability to create more cash flow and time freedom to do more of the stuff you want. You've now created, or an opportunity has come to you where you've got the time freedom to be able to work from anywhere.
Right. It's really weird. I mean, not weird, but almost like, yeah, weird is probably a good word. I mean, it's like this manifest destiny. Like about, 6 years ago, I decided that when I grow up, when I retire, I wanted to be a public speaker, for instance. I like to talk and I like to travel. So I want to travel places where people want to pay me to go hear me, talk. And so I joined Toastmasters. I really started working on my presentation skills and my speaking skills. And then that intersected with the tiny house movement,
Sure.
which also intersected with the fact that my kids were moving on. They're moving out, after college. And so my tiny empty nest really just has to do with the fact that my kids are now out of the house. And it's time for me to start figuring out what's the next part of my life. So,
Fantastic.
yeah, so I'm
Excellent.
really, really happy with our progress. I'm already, some are not surprised, I'm already ahead of schedule on building my rentals, so
Yeah.
cross your fingers.
That's it. Look forward to the adventure that lies ahead. So this has been us. Now, if you want to catch up with Michelle, where do they go? What's your website, Facebook page?
Okay, so first and foremost, you want to find me in the podcast, www.tinyhousepodcast.com.
Yeah.
My personal website is www.gohome.com, or you can also find me on Facebook at My Tiny Empty Nest. And, or just, here's another thing, here's a super duper top secret.
That's it. Don't tell anyone, guys. What?
Go on any search engine, type in MJ Boyle
Yeah.
Tiny House.
Okay.
Bam.
Yeah, you'll be there.
Yeah. I like first 5 pages. It's all about me.
That's it. It is. It is all about her. This has been.
You're the only person in the industry that knows that, so I appreciate that.
I know. So it is all about Michelle with this video, and it is all about the Tiny House Jamboree this weekend, which has been fantastic.
It's
And
really
as
fun.
I've said to so many people, you and I have been communicating for years now.
Yeah.
And
Don't get emotional.
I'm not getting emotional, shut up. But it's great to finally meet people, and it's not like we're complete strangers. Michelle was the very first person that we met when we rolled into this place. We walked into the lobby of the Sheraton Towers. She screamed and ran across the lobby, so it was a very warm welcome to Texas. So.
Well, this is the only guy that's like ever. I mean, he called me on my birthday.
I do. That's
He
what
did.
I do.
He calls me on my birthday. He like pays attention, and again, that's what the tiny house movement is all about. We found our people,
Yeah,
even as far away as we are.
that's it. Excellent. Give me a kiss. Thank you for your time. Love you lots.
Love you more.
All right. This has been me. That's been Michelle. That's been Lisa.
Cheers, guys.
She hates it when I do this. We will see you guys on the next video. Cheers, guys.
Bye.